4 Iranian missile boats rushed a United States carrier escort. Then this happened. They came in fast. 4 Iranian missile boats. No warning, no hailing. Just full throttle, straight toward one of the most powerful naval escort formations in the world. What happened next sent shockwaves through every naval command room from Washington to Tehran. This is not a drill. This is not a simulation. This is what happens when a regional power decides to test the most lethal surface warfare force ever assembled on open water. The result? Absolute silence, zero escalation, and a lesson that nobody inside the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps will forget anytime soon. Because what actually went down out there, what the commanders decided, what the Iranians were trying to prove, and what they took back with them when they finally turned away, tells you everything about where the next major naval conflict is going to come from. The Persian Gulf, one of the most congested, volatile, and strategically critical bodies of water on the planet, roughly 250 kilometers wide at its broadest point, bordered to the north by Iran, to the south and west by Gulf Cooperation Council, states that host American military infrastructure, choke-pointed at the Strait of Hormuz, 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest, through which approximately 21 million barrels of oil pass every single day. 21 million barrels per day. The energy supply of the entire industrialized world flows through that bottleneck. Whoever controls it, or credibly threatens to close it, holds extraordinary leverage over the global economy. Iran knows this. Iran has always known this. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, known as the IRGCN, has built its entire operational doctrine around that single geographic fact. They are not trying to win a conventional naval war against the United States. They cannot. Their fleet cannot match the United States Navy in a blue water engagement. Not in firepower, not in tonnage, not in sensors, not in doctrine, not in any category that matters when two fleets line up and fight. But that is not the game they are playing. The game is harassment, psychological pressure, calibrated provocation, the slow, grinding accumulation of incidents designed to accomplish several objectives simultaneously. Test American rules of engagement, demonstrate resolve to domestic audiences back in Tehran, signal to regional partners that Iran is a force that cannot be ignored, and probe continuously for the one scenario, the one moment of confusion, the one breakdown in communication, the one junior officer who makes the wrong call under pressure, that hands Tehran either a propaganda victory or, better, a shooting incident they can reframe as American aggression. This is the IRGCN playbook. It has been running continuously in various forms for decades. What happened on this day was a particularly sharp execution of that playbook, and the Americans had seen it before. The carrier strike group was operating in the northern Gulf. The formation was standard, a supercarrier at the center, surrounded by a layered escort of guided missile cruisers and destroyers, with submarine assets operating below the waterline, and a combat air patrol maintaining coverage above. This is not simply a fleet. It is a weapon system whose reach extends hundreds of kilometers in every direction. Anything that moves in that water, surface, subsurface, or airborne is being tracked. The escort ships on the outer perimeter, specifically the guided missile destroyers, form the front line of interaction with small and fast-moving surface threats. They carry the most advanced radar and fire control systems ever installed on a warship. They can track hundreds of contacts simultaneously. Their weapons can engage targets at ranges extending well beyond the visual horizon, and their crews train for exactly this type of scenario: close-quarters surface threat engagement in a confined, high-traffic waterway, thousands of hours every single year. The Iranian fast attack craft came from the north, 4 vessels, belonging to the IRGCN small boat fleet, likely Baghamar class or similar fiberglass-hulled speedboats rigged with heavy machine guns, rocket-propelled grenade launchers, and potentially wire-guided anti-ship missiles on deck mounts. These are not warships in the traditional sense. They are weapons platforms, cheap, fast, expendable, built specifically to swarm and overwhelm a larger vessel through sheer volume of simultaneous attack vectors. Speed, approximately 50 to 60 knots at full throttle. That is between 90 and 110 kilometers per hour across open water. A guided missile destroyer at full speed reaches roughly 30 knots. The arithmetic is not favorable for pursuit, but pursuit was never the plan on the American side. The moment those 4 contacts appeared on radar bearing down on the escort formation at attack approach angles, every command loop in the carrier strike group went live simultaneously. The commanding officer of the nearest escort vessel received a full track solution within seconds. His weapons officer had fire control radar locked on all 4 contacts. The Combat Information Center was feeding targeting data to every weapon system on the ship in real time. Bridge-to-bridge radio on the International Maritime Distress Frequency was activated immediately, and the prescribed warning sequence, as defined by United States Navy rules of engagement for Persian Gulf operations, began without hesitation. 5 short blasts on the ship's horn. Bridge-to-bridge radio hail. Radio hail repeated. Warning flares deployed. The sequence is drilled until it is automatic. It is also broadcast, recorded, time-stamped, and logged continuously, because in the event that an engagement follows, the legal and diplomatic record carries as much weight as the tactical outcome. American naval commanders understand this. Every action they take is going to be reviewed afterward. That awareness shapes every decision they make in the moment. The Iranians did not respond to the hails. They kept coming. The distance was collapsing fast. At 60 knots, the gap between those fast boats and the destroyer closed by a full nautical mile every 60 seconds. And at a certain range, a range defined in classified rules of engagement, the commanding officer carries both the authority and the legal obligation to respond with lethal force to protect his vessel and his crew. That range is not a judgment call. It is not emotional. It is a calculated threshold derived from 3 variables: the time required for an anti-ship missile launched from those boats to reach the escort vessel and detonate, the time required for a suicide-loaded hull to close the remaining distance and detonate, and the minimum distance at which the ship's own defensive systems can still neutralize the threat before impact. Below that threshold, the math no longer works in the defender's favor. The countdown was running. A common misconception about American naval forces in the Persian Gulf is that their warships operate as hair-trigger, shoot-first platforms whose commanders are hunting for any justification to open fire. That picture is completely false, and understanding why it is false is essential to understanding what happened when those boats kept closing. The United States Navy operates under rules of engagement that are among the most conservative, most legally scrutinized, and most command-reviewed frameworks of any military force operating anywhere in the world. Every action taken in an encounter like this one is reviewed after the fact by judge advocate general lawyers, by theater intelligence analysts, by operational commanders at multiple levels, and, in cases that escalate, by the Office of the Secretary of Defense and the National Security Council. Commanding officers know this before they ever set foot on a bridge in the Gulf. Their careers, their commands, and in extreme cases their freedom depend on executing those rules correctly. There is no rogue culture in the surface warfare community. There is discipline, precision, restraint with a clearly defined and non-negotiable limit. That limit was getting close. At roughly 1,000 meters, some accounts place it closer, the Iranian boats broke off hard. Full power turn, opposite direction. The kind of maneuver that tells you immediately the entire approach was planned, rehearsed, and executed with precise knowledge of exactly where the American threshold sat. These were not impulsive operators acting on instinct. This was a calibrated probe, executed with professional discipline on the Iranian side. They knew the line, they approached it, and they pulled back just before crossing it. They wanted the proximity. They wanted whatever imagery their crews captured. They wanted the radio traffic, or the specific absence of radio responses from the American side. They wanted the behavioral data. At what bearing does the destroyer change its course? At what range does the fire control radar go active? What does the response timeline look like from first contact to weapons-ready status? How does the command structure communicate internally when a threat is inbound? Every approach, even one that ends without a shot, is an intelligence collection operation. The data gathered on a failed probe becomes the input for the next generation of the tactic. The Americans understood this completely, which is exactly why the response was what it was. Complete, documented, professional, and without escalation. The warning sequence ran. The weapons were live and locked but not fired. The record was clean. And when the Iranians turned, the American formation continued its transit without deviation, because operationally, nothing unusual had occurred. In the Persian Gulf, this is routine. Now consider what the Iranians actually